Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to Ramacrow. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from an anonymous caller. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hi, so this recording can be broadcast if you're interested, but I would like to stay anonymous if that's possible. So I am not a member of the Jehovah's Witness community or anything, but I do have been finding it really helpful to listen to a lot of ex-JW, ex-Scientologists, and ex-Mormon resources such as yourself in podcasts. I originally saw you on the Leah Remini documentary that she did. Because of the situation that I'm in with my partner. So, to cut a long story short, my partner is in a church. It's called Iglesia Ni Cristo. It's a Filipino church. And I am of the belief it's a cult. There's a lot of red flags about it. In English, it's very difficult to find anything written about the church that isn't from the church. They don't believe that Jesus... the cult leader, I suppose, or the head of the church is the new Jesus, typical kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, so I did the classic mistake of, once I worked this out, going to my girlfriend and being like, "You're in a cult, what are you doing?" And of course, she denied that she's in a cult. So that's kind of where I ended up finding you amongst other people, just be like, what do I do with this? So we're gay, obviously. So we're in a same-sex relationship. That's not an option in that church. My partner's entire extended family is part of that church. So she's very much connected to that community. Then when she emigrated out here to Australia, as you can tell by my accent, that community was sort of her first point of call. So, it's provided her a lot of support, given a lot of stability, but also because she's gay, given her a lot of trauma. Yeah. I guess what I'm asking, that's just sort of more for context, I guess, but like what I'd really love to hear your thoughts on is that sort of time period of trying to dissociate, I suppose, from a high demand religion or a cult. Because that's where I'm sort of struggling. So once I made the mistake of trying to be like, "You're in a cult, get out of the cult, what are you doing?" And that obviously not working and having the opposite effect. I've tried to be a lot more understanding and patient. And I do understand that particularly because of the Leia being LGBTIQ+, it is, a very difficult process, especially because she has so many family members in the church. It's been a slow process of sort of coming out to her family as well, but that has been done. So that's a big step forward. And, they ironically mostly accept me despite the cognitive dissonance going around that as well. But yeah, what I'm kind of struggling with, I suppose, is that we've been together for over 2 years now and having the conversation of like, we would like to get married one day, we would like to have kids one day, we want to buy a house. But in order to do all of those things, she knows she needs to leave this church. And realistically, deep down, she really knew that even before she met me and before that kind of a future was a possibility, she needed to leave that church because it's not safe to be there for her. And they just won't accept her, and obviously she'll be kicked out, blah, blah, blah. So she's telling me that that's going to happen. She's making plans to make that happen, but then I'm not seeing a lot of follow through. So she still continues to go to church twice a week, which is the minimum, and they do check attendance. And yeah, I think she's probably skipped church 4 to 10 times last year. So what I was really keen to kind of get an idea on is like, what's the time period? If I'm able to successfully, and she is able to successfully commit to leaving, which she tells me she is every day. And again, she's making plans, but the actual follow through isn't there at the speed that I would like it to be there, certainly. But yeah, that's, I guess, what I'm looking for. Like, what does that process look like time-wise? Do I need to continue to be patient, or is it a sort of, hey, maybe it's time to call it a little bit? Or is that being too judgmental just because I have no experience of it, given I have no experience with that kind of trauma and traumatic relationship and the complexities of that, and extricating yourself. So yeah, thanks for all you do. And yeah, looking forward to your response.
Thank you very much. You will get a response because that's an astonishing message. I really do sympathize with your predicament, and I think it highlights just how universal these issues are. Many of my viewers will probably be thinking that this sort of stuff only happens within Jehovah's Witnesses or maybe one or two other groups, but you've identified a group that's based in the Philippines that has, it seems, many of the same practices or many of the same methods of control and hateful ideology towards the LGBTQ plus community in particular. So I think this is a very, very helpful message for my viewers, and I want to start off by thanking you for leaving it. Would it be judgmental to call it quits with your relationship, or to put your foot down and say, no, there needs to be some, as you put it, follow through. There needs to be some movement here. If you're saying that you're committed to the relationship, why am I not seeing anything? You mentioned that your girlfriend's been going twice per week to this church or cult. And you even mentioned that she skipped meetings maybe only 4 to 10 times in the last year. So basically she's a full-on member. Let's just put that out there. Your girlfriend is a full-on member of a group that you have identified as a cult, and certainly sounds like a cult based on what you're telling me. And to make the issue worse, or at least more complicated, your girlfriend's extended family is in the group. Meaning that even if members of her family are at least saying that they're accepting of you, there's a huge incentive for her to stay in the group, regardless of her feelings for you, regardless of even what she believes or doesn't believe. She's got a huge incentive there to stay in the group because her very identity is wrapped up in it. So I'm sorry to say, it's just not looking good. I mean, maybe there's something I'm missing here, but it's one thing for your girlfriend to say, I want a future with you. I want us to have a family, etc. I'm going to leave the cult to make that happen. But like you say, once someone makes that commitment, what you really want to see is, as you say, some follow through. That is not an unreasonable expectation. That is not being judgmental. It's a decision that she has ostensibly made. So why isn't the decision being put into action? Why aren't you seeing any movement on this? I think that's a perfectly reasonable position. And if I had to guess, the reason why you're not seeing any follow through is, again, because your girlfriend is more connected to the cult than probably even she realizes or is willing to admit. It's really got its claws into her, it would sound like. So I think, you keep asking about time period. Honestly, when it comes to extricating yourself from a cult, especially one that's extremely controlling and, controls every aspect of one's life right down to their sexuality, time periods vary from individual to individual. Arguably, it's never a case of severing all ties. Arguably, the indoctrination or remnants of the indoctrination stay with you forever. You know, that's how messed up cults can leave you. Obviously, some people are able to extricate themselves more quickly than others. But I honestly don't think you should be put in a position where you're told one thing and the reality is very different. If your girlfriend were open and upfront and saying, look, I really, really care about you and I really, really want a family with you and a future with you, but I also need to be in this group for various reasons, well, then you're in a better position, aren't you, to make a decision together about either terminating the relationship or you perhaps adapting to this reality of her living in both worlds. But if she's going to tell you that she's leaving, and then she's not going to leave, she's just going to carry on. In fact, it sounds like go to just about as many meetings as anyone would expect of her. I can't tell you what to do in these situations. I think it's very, very important to stress that even if I had the ability to make suggestions or control your actions, I wouldn't want that responsibility because it's your life and you have to deal with the consequences if things go south. But I can only say that that it's just not looking good. And I think you need to perhaps manage your expectations a little bit in terms of understanding the extent of your girlfriend's involvement, regardless of what she's been saying to you. It's really, really painful when it comes to relationships. Relationships are so complicated, and, you know, when your heart's involved, it can be very, very difficult, gut-wrenching to make decisions about staying with someone or leaving someone. It can feel like you're severing a limb almost to get out of the path of an oncoming train. But I think difficult decisions need to be made. And put simply, it's a case of either you tolerating and finding a way of dealing with her being in a cult that denies her sexuality, or you moving on with your love life or with your relationships and finding someone who is able to satisfy your needs. And I think your needs are very reasonable of not being tethered in any way to a group that denies your sexual identity. So I hope that's useful in some way, even if only to maybe tell you what deep down you probably already knew, but certainly your feelings and your frustrations are normal and you are not being judgmental in any way, shape or form, simply for wanting to see some kind of resolution to this issue. So thank you for leaving that message. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.